Pod. Pod.
Yes, what's life been like for you in lockdown? What's life like for a stand-up comedian?
It's I mean, it's not been it's been weird. It's been a bit of it's been a shock. Like we were full steam ahead on, like, I was doing tour support for Gervais and like building up towards my new Edinburgh show and doing loads of gigs, and then just suddenly halfway through March it all went, and you just have to kind of reconfigure like massively. So I've basically been writing stuff. I've been trying to do more writing jobs. Luckily I'd already had a bit of TV writing experience, so I was able to get a bit. But it's hard to know, really. It's hard to know. It doesn't feel like stand-up's coming back anytime soon. So yeah, I don't know if I have a solid answer for you there.
Yeah, do you find it's been any better for creativity or not really?
What's been good is I can focus on, say, if I'm writing a script or if I have to write some jokes for a TV show or something. I have nothing else to distract me, because stand-up comedy is quite an all-consuming profession, and it's easy to get obsessed with it, and it takes a lot of time, you know, and you're always traveling, and you can let other stuff fall away. So it's been useful in that sense, but I do miss it. I mean, I have to say, I really do miss it.
Yeah. And you mentioned TV shows there. Like, how does that work? Will a comedy show literally you get in touch with comedians and ask them to come up with lines, kind of thing, or jokes?
Yeah, I've done a bit of that on like some panel shows here, like Mock the Week and Have I Got News for You and stuff like that. I've I won't name the comics, but like a couple people have asked me to help out writing stuff, especially with the topical shows, because you have to you only have about 3 days to process loads and loads of news and topics and stuff, and sometimes they just want a hand with a few lines.
Okay.
It's good work, and it's sort of only now that basically TV shows like that can't be made and stand up doesn't go ahead that you realize quite how many people were employed by it. Like, yeah. It didn't feel like it was that big a world, but really the sort of comedy industry in this country was actually pretty big. Yeah. I
mean, there's a bit of an outcry about the lack of funds for the arts, wasn't there? But has that been kind of sorted out now or not really?
Well, the arts got the big bailout last week, which was like 1.5 billion, which, I mean, is great. I mean, it's much more than I think people were expecting. And that was to kind of prop up galleries and theatres and art centres. But stand-up comedy is not considered an art form.
Okay, right.
and so it's not eligible for any of it. Right. So now the comedy community is sort of, we're really pushing and trying to get our mitts on some of that money, and it remains to be seen whether it happens or not. I mean, it's great that they're trying to protect anything, to be honest, because so many theatres would have gone, so many live music venues would have gone, and hopefully we'll be able to save most of the comedy clubs as well. But I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's going on, because I saw they were making outside events okay again or something. Well, I don't really know what that entailed, and I saw that you were doing a drive-in comedy gig the other night or something.
Yeah, Monday night I did a drive-in gig. These were the first sort of live stand-up gigs to come back.
Right.
I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. It's absolutely bizarre. It's bizarre, and I don't really know if it works. Like,
okay.
I had to drive to Enfield in North London. They've got like this drive-in cinema with a stage. And so you walk on the stage and you do your set, but everyone's in their car.
Right.
And they honk when they laugh at a joke. They honk.
Didn't see that bit. That's funny.
It's like, it's sort of deafening. And it is, to perform, it's very annoying. And I kept thinking, why are they honking? Well, like, they must be as annoyed as I am. But
I suppose it sorts out those people that have silent laughs. Like, I have a bit of a silent laugh, but I guess you can't do that with a horn.
No, you definitely can't. But it was really, I mean, it was definitely a cool experience. It's definitely something I didn't think I'd ever have to face in my career. I'm not sure. I mean, I think they are doing more open air gigs. They've just announced some open air gigs are allowed, but the fact that you have to social distance really limits the amount of these gigs you can do and the sort of viability of them.
Yeah. So I guess you'd only have you'd have to have booked tables and stuff, wouldn't you? And that'd be a pretty big venue, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're pretty lucky. There's a lot of pretty good dynamic people in comedy in this country. So I reckon it'll probably be okay. But I mean, it must be the same in the live music industry. They must just, behind closed doors, people must be absolutely shitting themselves.
Yeah, especially now with Spotify and everything. I think one of the main ways bands make money is through live gigs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must be a bit of a panicky time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good segue into the music then. I think you're
me, man. I'm Mr.
I think you're about the same age as me, aren't you? I'm 32.
Yeah, I'm 32.
Yeah, so that's quite good in terms of being around at the same time, I guess. What do you remember about that time then? Were you always into guitar music when you were like in your teens or whatever?
Yeah, I was well into it. I loved it. I mean, I absolutely I love music. I remember even growing up as a kid, my parents used to listen to like Pulp and stuff and Bob Dylan. So it's not like they were like lame-os listening to Cliff Richard. So it was always there. I remember I was obsessed with it. And it's so interesting when you asked me to do this show. And this morning I've been making a list of all the bands that I either liked or had fucking strong opinions on. And I went through like my old CD collection. It's just so, I mean, it was a sort of surreal time. I don't know how it's remembered. I mean, I don't know if you've talked about this in other episodes and stuff. Like, it's a weird. Sorry, mate. Yeah, we talked to Mark Beaumont, who was a journalist for the NME, and he was saying it's a shame because it got labelled as like a bit of an indie landfill, and he thinks that it's a bit of a negative like name to be attached to it. And I guess I don't know. I suppose it did get to a point where you did feel a bit ashamed, maybe. When you're saying what bands you're into, do you think did that ever strike you at that point? Like say like late 2000s? Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I remember, I was like, did you ever know that band Hot Heat?
Yeah, really like the first album and stuff. Yeah,
I thought they were like so good. And they were pretty cool for about a month. But there was that. I guess it just felt like there was a carousel of bands constantly being built up and then torn down.
Yeah.
And I really loved Hot Heat, like the Vines, and a few other bands like that who had like pretty well regarded debut albums, and then just got totally slaughtered after that.
Yeah. Is that what you mean by it's a bit of a weird time kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think there were so many great. I mean, there was just loads of talent around, and I guess loads of those bands, a lot of them are still going. Certainly the big hitters are still going. So maybe that's just what it's always like. Maybe in the 60s, it was just the same. It's just we now remember the Beatles and the Kinks and stuff like that.
Yeah. And do you remember like going to club nights and stuff around that time?
Oh man, so much. I grew up in Brighton, so
it always seemed quite a good place for bands. I don't know why.
It was quite a good. And at the time, but weirdly, there was no one from there at the time. And then I remember the Electric Soft Parade came along. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, definitely remember the name. I can't think of any songs off the top of my head. But
they're another one, amazing debut album. And they kind of were like the Brighton band. Well, for me and my friends anyway. And yeah, we loved it. We used to go down the Concord too and like see gigs. I saw like, yeah, I used to love it. I think I saw like Block Party there and like the Shins and like everyone used to play there. Yeah. And then I went to uni in Newcastle. So I would have joined in 2006. Late 2006.
And I just think I went on a night out in Newcastle that year.
Where did you go?
it was one of the academies, I think, and they had this like massive indie night where it had like, it was a massive venue and had like the screens with all the music videos on while the music
I know.
was playing.
I think you went to Bulletproof at Newcastle Academy.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Because that's where me and my mates used to go like every Saturday.
Right, okay.
Every Saturday we'd go to Bulletproof, Saturday night, Newcastle Academy. It was like a massive dance floor.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's crazy. And it was like, I think it was £1.90 for a pint of Carling.
Carling had a right resurgence at that point, didn't it? It's always at Indian nights.
Yeah, because Carling were like, didn't they sponsor Reading and Leeds?
Yeah, and they had that Carling amnesty thing. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. I remember trying to trick it by taking, well, our mates tried to take empty cans in exchange for full ones. Never going to happen.
We did that. We went to Leeds Fest in 2007, and I think it was like, if you bring a can of any beer, they'll give you a cold can of Carling. So
you'd have like crates of like Tesco's own lager. And just be trying, but then you'd have to queue up to do it. So it's like, you have to be quite organised, I think, to get it done.
It was, like I had some friends who did like, it was Tesco's cooking ale or something. It was like 2%. And then they would come back and be like, "We got 4 cold Carlings," and it's basically the same quality to drink. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. And you can't even take it into the arena, I don't think.
No.
But yeah.
And I remember it was because Carling, I guess, did Carling run the academies as well, or did they sponsor them all?
Yeah, I remember it being the Carling Academy, and then did it go to O2 after that, I think, or something?
Yeah. Because I remember between my second and third year at uni, Carling lost the sponsorship. And so we went to Bulletproof. Oh God, just saying these words, it's all coming back, just the fucking poppers and the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, we used to go to Bulletproof, and I remember the first time we went in, we were like, I mean, the jig's up with these 190 Carlings. I mean, the jig is up because Carling aren't involved anymore. And it was Carlsberg was £1.95.
Oh no, not Carlsberg. Even as a young kid, I remember not liking that.
This was like, for us, this was like an affront. Like, you're going to make me pay an extra 5 pence. Yeah, but Newcastle felt pretty cool at that point because I guess Maximo Park were there. And I loved their debut album. Again, I loved all their albums, actually.
Yeah, they're still going, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going really well.
The lead singer is, at least, I think, yeah.
And then I think the Future Heads were from Sunderland.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I definitely I felt really lucky. I mean, I felt lucky to live in 2 kind of cool cities growing up, and music was always a big thing in both of them.
Yeah, and I suppose at that time you kind of, especially around 2006, you kind of take it for granted that there's going to be good bands all the time. Like, how in touch have you kept with music? I mean, part of this podcast is to suss out whether we're getting old or music's getting a bit shitter. But I don't know your opinion on that.
Well, I think the first bit is definitely true.
Yeah.
Definitely true. I've kept up a bit. I definitely fell out for years.
Yeah.
Like, for years I fell out. I think I took when Kings of Leon's 4th album came out, when they sort of became like Coldplay and I don't know.
Yeah, the Sex on Fire thing.
I took that really badly. Like, I really took that personally, and I sort of don't think I listened to any sort of new music it was for years and years and years. Yeah. And then a few years ago, I just thought, I can't be that guy. I really don't want to be that guy who only listens to stuff he listened to when he was 19.
Yeah.
There is really good music out there. Like, I don't think music is getting shitter. It's definitely less. I guess the thing is with the guitar indie of that era that we're talking about, it was like a scene. There was like a genuine scene, and you could see how everyone knew each other and fit into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the case today with music, but if it is, I certainly can't be asked to figure it out.
No, we've had the people we've had on said, there is, so there's a lot of music going on, but yeah, actual scenes hard to find, kind of thing.
I feel like it's probably better for society that there's more different types of music, like that are viewed as good, and like I feel like I guess the key thing is when we were the same age growing up, the music press, it was pretty much all white guitar music.
True, yeah.
Like it, and now I do feel like you get a lot more hip hop and soul, and R&B gets like. I guess it's probably good for society, but for someone like me who was just used to discovering all their bands through reading one magazine or looking at a Reading Festival lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fucked. I can't do that anymore. Can't do that. Do you know that band Fontaine's DC that's going?
Yeah, well, I keep getting told about them, but for some reason or other, I just haven't like listened to the first album, kind of thing.
Yeah, really, really good. Like really, really, really good, and could have slotted into this era like really well.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
And I went to see them at Brixton Academy with my wife in January.
Right.
And it felt like going to a gig in 2005.
Okay.
Like everyone looked the same. People were like smoking cigarettes. Like it was great. It was a lot of fun.
How old are they? Are they like a bit older? Are they like our age or something?
No, they're young.
Right. Okay.
I
saw they got like album of the year and stuff on Six Music and that.
Yeah, they're really. I think they'd be a good way back in. I'd say to new music. If there's anyone listening to this who hasn't, lost their way, they'd be a good one.
Yeah, like it's them. People that come on the podcast have mentioned them and Idols as like the front runners at the moment, kind of thing. But
it's really, I do find it tough. I mean, that the one thing about Spotify is it does just make it that much easier to discover music.
Yeah.
But also easier to just kind of fall into the same old patterns. I mean, I don't know.
I suppose another thing as well, what we've talked about is, like say with Spotify, back when we were students, whatever, bands were getting like big, like advances and stuff, and record companies would be giving them the means to make more music, kind of thing. Whereas now, it seems a lot harder for them to do that because the record deals aren't as big as they were, and they're having to make money out of Spotify, which by all accounts gives out a terrible payout to smaller bands.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I don't think. I mean, it's basically impossible to make any money on Spotify unless you're Drake.
Yeah. Apparently, they're trying to change. Like the bloke from Gomez is trying to change that. Apparently, he's launching an appeal because apparently something like the biggest percentage goes to the biggest artists, and it doesn't really filter down or something. So they're trying to get pay per play. I think that's what they're trying to do. Because you've got an album on there, haven't you? Yeah.
I released an album with a comedy label in the States last year.
Right.
No, it was 2 years ago. It was December 2018. And it was, I mean, the thing is, it was put everywhere, including Spotify. And the thing is Spotify just doesn't, I mean, if it doesn't work for a lot of smaller bands, it really does not work for comedy albums. Like it really, I mean, I guess Spotify's thing isn't comedy, like stand-up albums. But luckily in America, at least, there's a lot of like radio stations that will play just tracks from comedy albums.
Yeah, is it an American thing, a comedy album? Because I heard, maybe it's you and Ricky Gervais talking about it. And it's something I'd never heard of before. But is that kind of a big thing in America, having a comedy album?
Yeah, it's sort of built into the comedy culture over there. So most of like historically, all the big guys would like have comedy albums. It was sort of viewed as almost like having a special. It was sort of on a similar part. And then I think the money in TV got huge in the sort of mid-90s, like HBO and stuff came along. But I always wanted to have one. I always wanted to have a proper comedy album. And then this company, they're called 800 Pound Gorilla, and they just were like, yeah, just make one and we'll put it out. It was bizarre. I mean, it was so cool. And then they want to do another one as well. I mean, I don't know how. I don't know what the economics are. But if they want to just keep putting out albums of mine, that's fine. But it is really sad that like, because it costs money to make like a good album. Like,
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't even have a premium Spotify account, so I feel I'm probably part of the problem. But, but yeah, it must be hard work, definitely. Yeah,
I don't know.
because you must have. I don't know. I suppose it must favour people with comfortable backgrounds, or maybe that's just a bit of a sweeping statement. But
Well, I mean, yeah, it must do, and it feels like it feels like all creative stuff is a bit like that now.
yeah,
Like, there's money to be made, but you just have to do it unpaid for so long, and that's always going to favour people who come from more money. You know.
yeah,
It's shit, and I don't know. It's music. I feel is a really tough one because it just requires you need equipment. Like surely you need a bit of money just to get going.
yeah. I mean, I spent my student loan on like a guitar amp and a guitar for a band that lasted about 6 months. So
That's all right though. What did you do in those 6 months?
And to be fair, it's about. He got on for like 2 years in the end, to be fair. But I think we only ended up playing outside of Hull about twice.
Got to Beverley.
Exactly,
You made it to Beverley, lads.
Made it to Nelly's in Beverley. But yeah, I suppose that's something. But even like the politics in our band were too much. Even for a shit band from Hull, it got too much. So I don't know how these big bands do it. But yeah, that was suppose. I mean, that's the reason I stayed in Hull to go to university. It was to be in the band, really, which seems a bit stupid looking back. But we supported. It's quite funny because my dad always boasts that he supported his band, Coastal Erosion. Supported
Coastal Erosion.
That was their name.
That's all right.
He said they supported Free when they were #1 with All Right Now, and my version is supported Reverend and the Makers when they were #1 with Heavyweight Champions. So
that's great. That's really. I think that's really. That's probably more than. I mean, you probably got further than 99% of bands. Like most of them,
right in Hull, really.
Living room.
Yeah. No, we did all right, and we got to record a few times. But then I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, I assume it had a MySpace back in the day, did you?
Yeah, big time.
Our MySpace, we had some songs on there, but I don't know if you've looked on it recently, but all this music's just gone. So for some reason, no one's got a copy of our music apart from MySpace, and it's gone off there. So,
oh, that's so shit.
Maybe it'd be better in memory rather than playing it again. But
I always love hearing like people I know who like used to be in bands or used to make music. I always love hearing their old bands and stuff. I always feel like it's such a great insight into someone's, I don't know, into like someone's youth and stuff like that. Yeah. Especially loads of comics used to try and do music and stuff because secretly all comedians want to be rock stars. Yeah. That's genuinely the truth. If I was musical, I would give it all up tomorrow.
Were you ever in a band then?
No, never.
Okay.
Never. Never. I feel good that I feel like. I think I'm glad that it's not like I have this deep well of regret and sorrow that I could never make it as a musician.
Yeah.
So I never tried. I started doing stand up when I was like 19.
Okay, right.
So that sort of took up a lot of my sort of peak. What would have been my peak band years?
Yeah. So you did that at uni then?
Yeah. Well, that's when I started. Yeah, Bulletproof on a Saturday, right. Dog and Parrot open mic comedy on a Thursday. I mean, that was my life.
Nice.
It was it was good. I mean, I wanted to do something creative, and it's the easiest thing to do in terms of just you just email someone and go, I want to do a gig, and they'll go, yeah. I don't have to corral loads of people or get funding.
Was that like a student crowd or?
No, there was no student scene in Newcastle. I was like the only student comedian in Newcastle.
Right.
But I used to go and do stuff in Durham a lot because at Durham University, at the same time. I mean, they're a couple of years older than me, but people like Nish Kumar and Ed Gamble.
Right.
And so they ran a gig at Durham University, and I used to go out and do that sometimes.
Okay.
So it was a weird thing. I went to Newcastle and it was like there was a great music scene and there was no comedy scene. And now there is. Now there's they've got the Stan Comedy Club there.
I imagine Newcastle is one of those places. Like we had the Cribs on who said Scotland is, or like Glasgow particularly, is a great place to play if you're playing well, but if you're not, it can go very wrong, kind of thing. I imagine Newcastle's the same. Like, if they're bad, they're going to let you know.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, and also for comedy, Glasgow is like the notorious one. They always say like there's no deaths harder than a death in Glasgow.
Yeah.
But that's a city as well that's just produced so much. Like they've punched so above their weight in like the bands and the comedians and stuff.
And I suppose a link to music, just to compare them. Like you say, you were doing gigs in Newcastle when you're a student. I guess like for a band, it would be doing local gigs and kind of building up to getting a record deal. Like, what is the equivalent of getting a record deal for a young comedian like you?
I mean, it's hard to know, really. I mean, it was always just being a professional comedian, and that usually meant getting an agent. Getting an agent always helped because they just had more connections and they could just get you more gigs quickly. And so that's what it's all about. It's about being signed. But I guess that's the same with bands. If you want to be signed by a label.
And how quickly did that happen for you?
Fucking did not. It was not fast. Like, there was always like a few, it was always like on the cards, but it didn't happen. Like all my friends got signed before I did. It was a bit, you have to dig pretty deep, stuff like that.
And
that's one thing. That's one thing about music. That's one thing it's always felt like about, or at least it used to be the case. It felt like with bands was like you'd hear stories of bands playing 3 gigs and they're being signed.
Yeah.
And I always thought, how the fuck? Like genuinely. Like I remember, was it Glas Vegas? They were a Glasgow band. And there was like talk that they played 1 gig or something. And then Creation Records signed them. I thought, what's happening here?
I think it got to the point where it's another thing like the Cribs were talking about is like that scene got so big that record companies were just panicking and like trying to sign anyone that looked decent kind of off the bat kind of thing, I think. Yeah. But I mean, Glas Vegas were a bit older, weren't they? Wasn't he like a retired footballer or something? Yeah,
that's right. I think he played like lower league Scottish football. Weird. But that scene was like, I mean, it must have been big business. And is there a point you think where it ended, where that like era of music?
Yeah, I mean, people kind of pointed to like when I remember 2008 Leeds Festival, and it's when the Klaxons were playing, and everything just seemed a bit different.
Was that when Klaxons were headlining the second stage above LCD Sound System?
It might have been, yeah.
I was there for that.
Yeah, I do remember LCD Sound System playing. Yeah, I think, and was it New Rave they were calling it? Or maybe that was 2007. But yeah,
no, that is it. New Rave. I remember that.
Yeah,
that was it, because that felt like, I remember on the surface that felt like it was just. Whereas guitar music had sort of organically become really popular again, and people had started getting like being in bands sort of because they wanted to be in bands. It felt like New Rave was like it was the press had just invented it.
Yeah.
And they sort of found bands to kind of fit in with it.
Yeah.
Like, what was the big song by the Klaxons?
I actually came on the radio the other day. It was there's a couple. There's Atlantis to Winter Zone as well, and then what was the other one? The other one was on the radio the other day. I can't remember. Yeah, they had a couple of big ones, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing I was going to ask you is like one of the bands. It's a bit of a loose comparison, but one of the better bands from Hull was a band called The Neat, who went on to they're still going as Life now.
Okay.
Who get a bit of play on Six Music and stuff. But I remember their attitude was they used to ditch songs all the time, even if they were going down quite well. They used to change the material like all the time. Is that something you have to do as a comedian kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's something where comedians always talk about compared to bands, where it's like, if you're a band, your fans never want you to write a new song. They just want, if they turn up and see you, they just want the old songs.
Yeah.
Whereas a comedian, you absolutely have to have new stuff all the time. Because,
Right.
you know, I remember I saw Radiohead a few years ago, and it wasn't a problem they only played their new stuff, but they just didn't play any hits. And I'm a die-hard Radiohead fan, but I was like, you've got to play one hit, man.
Yeah, I remember seeing them 2009 Leeds Festival, I think.
Yeah.
And there's someone that, you know, I dip in and out of Radiohead. I do like them, but yeah, there's like no hits. I was just like, wow.
Especially if you're like headlining a festival, you think, fuck it, just
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At least open with a hit, and then you can play whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's quite. So what they're called? They're called the Neat, and now they're called the Life.
They're called Life now. Yeah. But yeah, they're getting quite a lot of attention, and they supported slaves, and then they went on to support idols quite a lot. But yeah, they're decent.
That's great. I'll check them out.
Yeah, yeah. I think I saw they're doing the gig on Zoom for £8 a go, which I'm not sure I'll be doing, but I guess it's worth going.
I've done a few Zoom comedy gigs during the lockdown, and it's okay, you know. It kind of works, but it's all just. The problem is, I think eventually it just makes you sad because you realise how much you've lost. You know, you just go, well, it will never be close to what it is before.
Are you getting laughs or anything, or is it just judging people's reaction?
Yeah. I mean, you're meant to get laughs. I don't get it. But I mean, how can you tell? Because they must be on mute, the audience, are they? Or no,
not?
what we tend to do, the best ones anyway, tend to have someone involved who mutes the people who are really loud, but keep most of them open. So there is a bit of you have to have a bit of a reaction.
Yeah.
And I'd say that works better than cars honking. You know, I've done both now. I've done both. But I think live music, it's like you can't. How can you? It's not even close to replacing it. Watching it on Zoom.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to fucking smash up your house on your own, fucking in a pit,
trying to crowd surf on your bed or something.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, like one question we asked bands is if they felt part of the community back in the day. Like we've talked to bands who say they helped each other out and stuff. And you hear comedians say and talk about the circuit, the comedy circuit. So you guys have like community spirit where you help each other out kind of thing? Yeah,
I'd say so. I think there's a reputation that comedy is quite cutthroat and that comedians are quite, it's quite a cutthroat world, but it's not. I mean, there's a bit of that. There's definitely a bit of that. But for the most part, comedians are really solid. And I think actually of all the things I missed during the lockdown about missing my job and stuff like that, it is just the other comics who I miss the most, because you do just forge really deep friendships. It's a pretty big world, the UK comedy world, but it is tight. There is it does feel quite unified for the most part. I mean, obviously there's always bits where people fall out and stuff, but yeah, really, I think comics always like helping each other out for the most part. Yeah, because I guess like the only people that really understand what it's like is other stand-ups, I guess. Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, I mean some people say it's like being a soldier or something. Like it's. I mean, I don't know if it's that intense, but it's like if there's a sort of everyone who does live comedy has at some point in their life made that big decision to do it and made that leap. And I think that, I mean, I guess that sort of gels us all together. Even though you meet every type of person doing comedy, everyone's kind of got that one thing in common, that they all made that leap. Yeah, and you must find that you come up with the same people, or that you progress a similar rate to other people. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean the sort of people you start out with. I mean, that's one of the sort of sadder, weirder things about comedy, because you start out with a group when you're doing like open mics, and you form a bond with a lot of these people, and you travel the country together, and you try and work your way up, and then eventually everyone kind of moves at a different pace, and you sort of make more friends at the next level, and then you make more friends at the next level. But yeah, it's pretty great. I mean that's it's the community is a pretty special thing, I think, the comedy community. It probably doesn't seem like it, but I've done stand-up in other countries, and it's just not the same. I mean, it's much more brutal, I think, in other countries. And maybe it's because Britain was, I mean, I don't know what it will be after this, it was the easiest place to make a living as a comedian. There was a lot of work going round. The distances are quite short. Maybe it will change after this. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will.
Just think about, we're talking about writing new material, and am I right in thinking, I'm sure I heard you and Ricky Gervais talking about you like hiring a room in Luton for a week or something?
Oh mate, this is the worst. It was the worst. I was genuinely, this is like the worst 4 days of my life. I was trying to write my Edinburgh Fringe show in 2017, and I just couldn't write. I'd never had like writer's block like that. I basically just couldn't. I couldn't see a way through this. I couldn't see a way of. I was like, oh, I'm done. I basically was like, I'm done as a comedian. I dropped my agent at the time because it hadn't been working out, and so I'd taken a big risk, thinking I'm going to go to Edinburgh Fringe with an amazing new show, and all the agents are going to want to sign me, and I'm going to be at the top, baby. And the problem is I was just out of ideas. And so I thought I'll rent like a cottage in the country. That was my thought, because I always thought, like, I heard about people doing that. They go, yeah, they went on like a little writer's retreat on their own to like the wilderness, and they were just on their own, and all they could do was write, and it really helped them. But I couldn't afford that. Like, I didn't realize how much it cost. But all I could afford was like a 1-bedroom flat in Luton.
Right.
So I went up to Luton for 4 days and stayed in this 1-bedroom flat, which didn't have any internet or furniture or it was nothing. Like,
was it Airbnb?
It was Airbnb, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right. I don't even know what it was above an abandoned pub. I mean, it's so. Have you been to Luton?
Been a couple of times for football, and yeah, it is one of the worst places I've been, I think.
It is like, and it's sketchy. Like, yeah, it's like but people are like, whenever like people in the north always like, oh, the fucking south, like south is all posh. I always think, yeah, like go to Luton though. Like, and so I was just there for 4 days, and all I remember is I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the same Wetherspoons every day. And it was during Grenfell. Like, it was the day that Grenfell caught fire. So I was just going, eating a Wetherspoons breakfast, looking at Grenfell, coming home, and just thinking, oh, I've got to try and write some jokes. It was awful. It was absolutely the worst time of my life.
On those TVs where, is it just BBC News with subtitles all day long? Something very depressing about that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was exactly that. And the door to the flat didn't lock. That's all I remember, is it didn't lock. The guy had given me the wrong keys, right. And I just didn't have the spirit to like try and contact him. So I just would leave and just leave it unlocked. I would just leave, and then I sort of had a plan for if he came back and I gave him the keys back, because he came back just before I left. And I thought he was going to say, like, I've given you the wrong keys. Like, how have you managed? And I was basically said, I'm going to have to say to this man that I haven't left the flat in 4 days. I've just been sat here for 4 days.
And did he come up with any new material or not? Did it work?
Honestly, I didn't write. I don't think I wrote a joke in 4 days. Jesus. I genuinely don't think I wrote. I went to a charity shop. I bought Sideways on DVD,
right.
And then I watched that twice, and then I watched it again with the director's commentary. I mean, I genuinely find it really hard to think about because I was at such a low point in my life. Also, the woman who's now my wife, she's Canadian, and she had just left. She'd been traveling Europe when we met, and the day before I went to Luton, she had just left Europe, possibly forever.
Right.
So I was like, right, I'm in love with this woman who I don't know if I'll ever see her again. And my way of getting over it is to immediately go to Luton on my own. It was fucking so grim.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bad. So what?
I wasn't even like, I mean, it's not even like I like smoking weed or I could do anything to like pass the time. It was just, yeah.
So what is your formula now for writing new material? Do you have one, or is it kind of just when ideas come to you?
Yeah, I guess I sort of, it really helps having the sort of, when stand-up's properly going, when you're doing 4 or 5 gigs a week, the momentum and the sort of constant adrenaline kind of keeps you creative, I think.
Yeah, because I guess there's always a pressure there when it's just you on stage, it must be a constant pressure to keep people laughing, I guess.
Yeah, and you just sort of find a part of yourself, I think. There's just, you find something that you can't find elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I guess that's always why so many bands wrote songs on the road and stuff like that. There's just something about that lifestyle that just encourages you to keep it going, to keep the creativity going. But at the moment, I mean, I genuinely haven't written a stand-up joke in so long because it's been very surreal. It's sort of, Yeah.
So
4 months
maybe
sleeping in the same bed. For me, that's like unheard of. Yeah. Not because I'm some sort of, not like I'm cheating on my wife.
Yeah. I suppose now with the Luton things, it kind of like where you can compare anything to that and think, well, at least it's not as bad as Luton kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I have had a lot of miserable nights and a lot of crap accommodation in my career, but nothing is ever as bad as the self-inflicted stay in Luton, which I also could have left at any time. I mean, also the bottom line is, I could have got on a train to London at any point and just walked away. But the one thing I'm not is a quitter, and I thought I'm in Luton. And I'm going to see this one out. Okay, Luton? But that was the first time I've had a Five Guys. So...
yeah. I only had one...
Every cloud. I did have a Five Guys for the first time.
I only had one for the first time fairly recently, I think, because there's one on Manchester Uni campus. And they are pretty good, but it's just hilariously expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a joke, isn't it? There's one on the campus of Manchester Uni?
Yeah, it's mad with like this new bit. Well, it's not new to me because it was there when I joined, but it's fairly new and there's like a Five Guys, a Brewdog, Cafe Nero, all in a row on campus. And
Christ.
So yeah, it's happened a few Fridays, definitely. Yeah.
Is Manchester's still a great city for music, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, I've only been here because I'm originally from Holland and I lived in London for a few years.
Yeah.
And then came up here last summer, so I've only been here a year, but. Definitely seems that way, I think, yeah. Obviously get reminded of the good old bands. I mean, I heard you saying you're a big fan of the Smiths as well.
Yeah, I really love the Smiths.
Yeah,
they're great. I mean, they're sort of becoming a bit toxic now, I think, because Morrissey's just gone a bit off the deep end.
Yeah, I only heard him saying he's pro-Brexit or something. I've not really heard much of what he's saying.
I think he's just a bit of I think he's just always been like a teenager trapped in this body, and I don't know. He just sounds like a whiny idiot, but but that's why I love him. The Smiths. I mean, the Smiths is like. I guess that my thing with Manchester is every time I go to Manchester, it's just it's a city that is absolutely loyal to the Parker and the kind of that weird bob cut. Like sort of late 90s Liam Gallagher verve. Like
it does have a confidence to it for some reason, the whole place. Sometimes, and like I guess maybe that's why a lot of good bands have come from here, because they're almost like aggressively confident sometimes.
Yeah. I always really love Manchester.
Yeah, have you played here quite a few times?
Yeah, loads. I mean, the scene there is so good. And certainly when I was starting sort of when I was properly starting comedy as a student, sort of 2008, 2009, after London, Manchester was the best scene by a mile.
Right.
So I'd get the train down a lot from Newcastle to Manchester, and it was good,
Yeah.
good days.
Obviously, got to touch on your relationship with Ricky Gervais, because I think that's the first place I heard you was on his podcast. And I heard you talking about the Bible pod, which I went on to listen to. But yeah, how did that relationship come about?
I was just dumb luck. I mean, really, like a lot of show business, it's just I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Like we briefly had the same manager, and he was doing warm-ups. He was doing a lot of warm-up gigs for the Humanity Tour, which was his one before the one he's currently doing. And he would do them in sort of various sort of small venues around London with a couple other acts, all both coming on and doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes of new material. And on the day of one of those, one of the acts pulled out for whatever reason. They couldn't make it. And I just got drafted in because I was free and I was nearby. And I talked to, I met him, and, it was surreal. He's such I guess for people of our age, I mean, he was like so... It was,
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, all of my mates absolutely loved The Office. Were you the same?
It was like formative. It felt like it was such a pivotal part of my upbringing, was that show. Like, it was so... and he became such a sort of giant. But then I met him, and, he's just such a sound guy. He's so down to earth. He's so funny. We got on, and then a few months later, he was doing... Actually, this links to this podcast so well. I cannot believe I haven't thought of this story. He was doing David Brent live shows.
Yeah.
But the backing band is Razorlight.
I remember seeing the drummer, recognizing the drummer.
It's Andy Burrows.
Yeah.
Who wrote all the songs for like the David Brent film, and he still works on the music for Ricky's sitcoms and stuff.
Oh, right, okay.
Fuck, I mean, look at that. This is synergy.
That's a great segue. Maybe we can get him on.
They were like a class. Razorlight were they were right in the midst of this.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Era of music.
They were like a band that people kind of love to hate, but kind of still listen to, weren't they?
Yeah, but they
felt like that.
But some of their songs, I mean, I guess they had such good singles.
Yeah.
Touch in America. I mean, they couldn't argue with it.
No,
But anyway, usually it was Doc Brown would open for Ricky, but Doc Brown was in the show for the David Brent live show.
Right.
So he couldn't open for him. So I just got called in to open for him at these dates. And it was just, it was wild. And then I started being like the backup support for the Humanity Tour. And then on the current one, I'm the main support, and it's great. And he asked me to do stuff with him and put me in Afterlife for a scene. And yeah, he's a great guy, and it's,
yeah,
I got nothing. I mean, what else am I going to do? Of course, of course, I'll open for you in arenas around the world. I mean,
I was going to say you must have played some mad venues,
mate. It's some of it's crazy. The biggest one we did was on the Humanity Tour, which I didn't even do that many dates of. I opened the one in Denmark, in Copenhagen,
right?
And it was like 14,000.
Bloody hell.
15,000, but it was like a brand new venue. Like it was the venue had been open for 6 months. It's called the Royal Arena in Copenhagen, and it's just it's incredible. It's like a freaking ice hockey arena. It's like so huge, and it was the best. I mean, it was one of the best gigs I've ever had. I mean, the crowd were incredible, and
yeah, I was going to say, how do the crowds differ like in different countries?
Oh, they're great. I mean, genuinely, overseas is usually easier because I guess it's just not as routine, And a lot of places Ricky goes, especially on this tour, it's been the first time he's ever been there. So, like, we did Paris, we did the Olympia, which is like this historic venue that like was set up by the guy who set up the Moulin Rouge, and there's been loads of like I think Pink Floyd recorded an album there or something like that. Right. And that was amazing. We went to Prague and all that. But I'll never forget that one in Copenhagen. My girlfriend had moved back. I mean, this is this is pure storytelling, because before I told you she left, she ended up coming back to live with me in London, and she had just moved to London from Canada, and she'd seen me do stand-up once before, and it was in a leisure centre in Cumberton, which is like near Cambridge, and it was just dog shit. It was it was just awful.
Right.
And so I think when I would tell her that I was like a professional comedian, I think she sort of didn't really believe it. And so the second gig she ever saw me at was that gig in Copenhagen. And afterwards, they had this book, this massive leather-bound book, where everyone who plays the venue signs it.
Yeah.
And Ricky left the gig early. He always goes as soon as he's on. And so me and my girlfriend were just in his dressing room, drinking, looking through this book, and just like laughing at all the people. It was like I think Metallica had played there, and they had like the Harlem Globetrotters had signed it, and Shania Twain. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. What's I guess it's a bit of a basic question, but everyone talks about stand-up comedians having a lot of bottle and stuff in terms of nerves and handling hecklers. Do you still get nervous? I guess it's seen as a good thing, I suppose, if you get nerves pre-gig, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's sort of the big ones are pretty nerve-wracking. Well, they can be, but it's like, I mean, it depends. It really depends. The thing with stand-up is it's the biggest leap you'll ever make is the first time you do it.
Yeah. It's kind of like you hear a boxer say, once you get punched in the face, you're kind of used to it, kind of thing.
I guess that, I mean, it is like that. The first time a boxer has a genuine bout, nothing will be scarier than that, and it's kind of the same as a comedian. But I'm very, I feel very lucky. I've sort of done the full gamut. I've done the shittest, crappiest open mic comedy nights you could ever imagine. And I've done like big arena shows, and the nerves are kind of, it's sort of, it's almost random which ones make you more nervous than not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then when you're out there, do you find that you get comfortable, or is it kind of like you say, you kind of get into a different zone once the adrenaline's pumping and stuff? Yeah,
you can find it, especially if it starts okay, then you're fine, really. Yeah.
Is there like a memorable put down, or like your best put down to a heckler? Can you remember?
I don't really know. I can't really remember. I mean, they're all so hilarious.
Yeah.
I tend to take it by case.
Yeah. Because I guess that's a real test of a comedian's wit, isn't it? If you're getting put on the spot like that, even though it might be a really inane comment that someone's shouting, at the same time you've got to think of the funniest way or the best way to put them down. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, hecklers are really shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Not witty, and the crowd usually doesn't like them. So it's actually not as much of a skill as you think.
Fair enough.
Because people don't want to hear a heckler; they want to hear a comedian.
Yeah, so they're immediately on your side, kind of thing.
Yeah. But that's not to say that I haven't had freaking rings round me.
Yeah. You mentioned Afterlife. What was it like being in that? Did you have to? Did he tell a couple of jokes in that?
Yeah.
So how did that work? Did you and Ricky write them together, or?
Ricky called me up once and said that I'm doing this. He goes, I don't know if you act, but I've got a role in Afterlife for this, where he goes to a comedy night, his character, and he sees a shit comedian, and he said, I just thought you'd be great. It was fine. I'd never done any acting on screen before.
Right.
So playing a shit comedian was good because it was sort of, typecasting. And I remember he'd written a script of like a few of the jokes I say, but then on the day he said, just improvise around it if you want. And it was just really fun, just acting like a gurning idiot, like going into this room. And it was wild that, because I remember, I filmed it the day after England had beaten Colombia in the World Cup.
Oh yeah.
So England had won on penalties, and my voice was just gone. Because I'd gone to the pub to watch England Colombia, and it was that night. It was funny. So I went there in the morning to film this thing, and then that night I recorded my album. So that was probably, in a weird way, that was like the biggest day of my career.
Yeah.
But I was really hungover for all of it because England had beaten Colombia in the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, because I came to watch one of Ricky Gervais's warm-up gigs for, what's his new one called?
Supernature.
That's the one, yeah. And I think he calls himself Brian Gittins. I can't remember. I don't know his real name. David Earl, is it?
Yeah.
Because he's in Afterlife as well, isn't he? And,
as Brian Gittins, yeah.
I mean, his act's absolutely mad, isn't it?
My favourite. I just find it so unique and just like half the crowd. I mean, it is that classic crowd splitting thing where, like, if you get it, it is the funniest thing that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it is the most infuriating thing. But yeah, which one did you come to? Did you come to one of the ones in London?
That was definitely, it's one near King's Cross, and you played, I'm sure you did. It was you and David Earl supported him. It was near King's Cross. I can't remember the name of the venue.
Oh, was it the Shore Theatre?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, they were cool, those ones. One of those, you might have been there. I remember Hector Bellerin, the Arsenal player, was there.
Right.
And he came backstage, and he was wearing like a gold tracksuit.
Right.
And like he was just talking to Ricky. Ricky didn't even know who he was.
How does he get backstage then? Just like his agent sorts out or something?
I don't really know. I mean, it was Hector Bellerin. Yeah. You just do what you want if you're a Premier League footballer.
Yeah.
I think he was with Romesh. I think Romesh was there. But Romesh didn't come backstage, but Hector Bellerin did. He and David Earl are like big football fans.
Yeah.
We were like speechless. Like we were like, oh my God, it's Hector Bellerin.
Did he have much to say then, or just
Hector Bellerin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know why he came backstage, but I guess if you're a professional footballer and you're in the Premier League, you can. Yeah,
you're going to do what you want, I suppose.
You do what you want, and you go, yeah, of course, everyone wants to see me. Yeah, why not?
Because David had a bit of a routine about Football Manager, which is hilarious.
Oh, about how he sucked one off.
Yeah,
it's so funny that
the way he delivers it is just unreal. And I think he did it in Afterlife, the second series. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he does.
So who's your team then, football-wise?
I support QPR.
Ah, right, okay.
My dad's from Acton, and all his brothers supported QPR, so I just followed them.
Nice.
Horrible. Really horrible. Grew up in Brighton when Brighton were really bad and QPR were like okay.
Yeah.
And then now Brighton are like one of the best run clubs in the country, and QPR are just in the pits. It's just nothing.
I actually put a bet on, a bit of an ambitious bet, but because since the restart, QPR just kept losing. And I thought, I saw they were 500 to 1 to go down, so I put a couple of quid on it. But I think you're already safe, I think.
Genuinely, you 500 to 1. It's because QPR won. I mean, I don't know what your listeners are going to make of this conversation. Thinking this isn't the guy for the but they beat Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And I think if we hadn't have won that game, you'd absolutely be looking at getting your money, because they're doing nothing. They're losing, like they're getting battered every game.
Yeah, it's like 1-1 and lost the rest, pretty much.
Yeah. No, we drew last night.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm a Hull fan.
Okay.
I haven't been for I haven't been for a few years now, but yeah, last night was a bit of a heavy one for us.
Yeah, hardcore that.
We were trending on Twitter for hours. It was mad.
What's going on at that club? Is it the owners of nutcase, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on for years now, but it's all stemmed from when they wanted to change the name. And I don't know if you remember, they wanted to change the name to Hull Tigers.
Yeah.
I suppose the big thing for us now as well is that the owners have put a £40 million price tag on us, because that's the money they lent to us to pay off the debts when they first came in. And that's, with interest, it's gone up to 40 million, even though the likes of Wigan are getting sold for about 15 million. We don't even own our stadium and stuff, so it's just like, that's another thing where you can't see the end of it because no one's going to buy us for that much money in League One.
I always am surprised at how cheap it is to buy like a second tier football team.
Yeah.
All you'd have to do is go up, and then you're worth so much more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like Wickham going up the other night. They're going to be like absolutely loving it.
Yeah, I know. It's great. QPR legend Gareth Ainsworth.
he's hilarious, isn't he?
He used to play in rock bands. He used to play in a band called Dog Chewed the Handle. When he was playing at QPR, he'd be like, he was called Wild Thing. He's just incredible. He's such a fan favourite everywhere he went. And he would score these amazing goals. And then he would be like, they'd be like, what are you doing tonight? He goes, I've got to go. I've got a gig.
Yeah, he's still in a band because Wickham have got American earners. So him and his band, they call the Cold Blooded Hearts. They covered a song, The Wanderer, because of Wickham. And it's on Spotify. You can listen to it. It's hilarious.
There you go.
He's
Back
tired
to
of
music.
everything.
Back to music.
Yeah, exactly. Tired. Oh. But yeah, I suppose one to finish on, Sean. I did listen to the Bible pod. Like I looked on my Apple podcast today, and I listened to the first two series, and then dropped off a bit. Really enjoyed that. Like, how is Elliot kind of been your mate for a long time?
No, we met in like 2017.
Right.
And he was sort of already doing a lot of podcast stuff. And he just asked if I wanted to. And I'd got this deal with Audio Boom to produce a podcast. And I had no idea what to do. And I don't know anything about podcasting. With him, we sort of started doing some stuff. And then we got the idea to just try and read the Bible in its entirety and try and turn it into like a comedy podcast. And it's a weird, I really like it. It's really funny. We're almost done now. We've only got about 2 episodes left.
Okay, right.
But like, I'd say the people who listen to it are as loyal to our podcast as like hardcore Christians are to the actual Bible. But there are far, 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 far less of the people who love our podcast. Because we thought because there was also a sort of cynical side to it. We were going, the Bible is the biggest book in the world. This is a slam dunk commercially. We are going to be like Joe Rogan. But the thing is, the podcast, it's so weird. Like, it's just us reading the Bible and then making a bunch of dumb knob jokes. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. But
no, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good. I mean, people like it. I mean, it's almost over, and I'm glad we've done it. But, it now doesn't surprise me at all that it's a pretty niche proposition.
I love like little segues to like Star World and stuff. So I need to catch up on all that as well.
Because we had all the fucking hell, I forgot about all that shit. Like we have like these plots in it. Like there was an idea that Elliot was making a film, but he didn't have the rights to Star Wars, so he called it Star World. And like it basically, the podcast makes absolutely no sense unless you've listened to every single episode.
Yeah. But I enjoyed like Chewbacca and stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
But yeah, I saw you've covered the Birth of Jesus, which I haven't listened to yet, so I'll have to get on that.
Those are the best. That's the best ones we've ever done.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, so I'll have a listen.
We did the Birth of Jesus, and then during lockdown we did the Death of Jesus and the Resurrection, and we actually did it on Good Friday and Easter Sunday.
Excellent, right?
So it was we were like it was as live, you know.
Yeah. All right, nice one. I'll have to definitely check that out. Is there anything else that you wanted to promote or anything, or people can look out for you in?
I put my last Edinburgh show, my last tour, my sort of special thing is on my YouTube page. It's called Hail Mary, and it came out a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And that's pretty good. I mean, if you want to watch that would be good. Give it a like and a comment, because YouTube algorithms are mad. But yeah, if you want to watch my stand-up, that's probably the best stand-up I've got that's out there, because most of my YouTube clips are shit, but I have no ownership of them.
Okay.
So I don't know so I can't get rid of them. So I'm just putting out good ones to hopefully push the other ones down. But yeah, my Hail Mary show is 50 minutes. It's free, and yeah, Might be worth watching.
Pod.